You're listening to the Spark Your Light podcast, where my mission is to help you create a life that sparks the light inside of you. And this is episode number 300, checking in on your 2025 goals. Wow, episode 300. I just want to take a second to celebrate myself because I'm really proud of that milestone, and also to thank my entire team, my studio, and everyone who contributes to making this a reality. I'm so grateful that this is real. I can't believe it. When I put myself back in my 2019 self, that's when I started the podcast. Did I think I would someday have 300 episodes? I don't know. I think I just started and wanted to see where it goes. And sometimes I think that those goals are really fun ones because they don't have a lot of pressure. They're just fun. And that's what I feel like the podcast has always been for me. And most importantly, I want to thank all of you, my listeners. I certainly would not be here without you. I would not have a show. The show probably would have ended if the only people I was speaking to were me and my mom. So while we both take up, two of the spots of all our total listeners, I have all of you to thank for listening to the show and helping make this dream a reality. So thank you to everyone who listens. I'm so grateful. Thank you to everyone who's ever left a review, ever shared the show with a friend. It is why I am here recording episode number 300. So without further ado, let's get into this juicy content. For today's episode, I wanted to take some time to think back to the goals that you set at the beginning of the year, because I think so often they just get lost. It's like life happens, we get busy, things change, we evolve, and we have not even checked in on our goals. And I think it's a really great time as we near the end of the year, before we go into a new year, before we set New Year goals, to one, check in, and two, be intentional about how we want to spend the rest of the year. So that's what this episode is all about. It's a personal check-in for you. So my first question for you is, what were your 2025 goals? Do you remember them? Can you go back somewhere and find them? And maybe you pause this episode and you go look for them, or maybe later today, maybe you're driving or you're at work or something. Maybe if you don't have them handy, like you didn't write them somewhere digitally, they're in a notebook or something, maybe you can go back and look for them when you get home tonight. But that's something I first want you to have awareness of what the goals actually were. My second question is, have the goals changed? This is not bad, right, or wrong. I will mention that if your goals change every single year and you never set sights on something, you'll probably never make meaningful progress. So, a huge part of Angela Duckworth's research on grit is that it's people who have passion and perseverance for their very long-term goals, meaning they stick with the same goal for a very long time. And those are the people that are most successful. So the reason you set goals is because you want to be successful. So we do need to stick with things. That's important. But your goals may change because you haven't quite figured it out yet. They may change because you constantly have new information that's shifting your vision. And that's okay. And I'm actually going to record a whole episode on that. The next episode that's coming out is going to be about that topic. So I don't want to go too deep into that because I think that deserves its own episode. But I just want, for the context of today's episode, you to think about, have they changed? Yes or no? If they have changed, what are the new goals? Did you even set new goals? Or when they changed, did you just say, oh, well, I don't want that anymore, and then there was no new goal set? I want to talk for a minute about the power of setting goals and why we set goals. Goals change the way you show up. If there is no goal, then you will show up with no direction and no consistency. So the goal gives us a container. And as we know from research, work expands to the container we give it. So if we give it, an infinite container, then we'll probably never make meaningful progress. So setting goals is really helpful for creating that spark, for inspiring progress, and for exciting you in the journey. You should set goals that make you feel giddy inside, maybe a little nervous, so excited that is what you're creating for your life. You should feel that way about your goals. And if you don't, we really need to look at what goals you're setting and why and where they're coming from. Your goals should feel warm. They should feel peaceful. And in different seasons, we're going to have different goals. Sometimes I've set goals that are really nourishing, especially as a new mom. I feel like a lot of my goals have been nourishing. What do I need? What's going to support me? What are decisions that I can make that will make my life better in the ways that are best for me right now? And then there have been other times in my life where I've set really bold goals that really make me uncomfortable. And that has been filled with so much growth and so much fulfillment along the journey. So goals are really important. And if you're listening, you probably have goals. That's why you turned on this episode. But I just want to remind you, in case you're the person who had goals and then they changed, or if you're the person who had goals, but you forgot about them. Let's be honest. How many times do you set a goal and you can't even remember what it is? This happens to me all the time. I always set goals for every quarter, every month, every year. So every 3 months, I have a new goal, usually business-related goals, kind of business functions in that cycle, and it makes sense. I like those 3-month goals because they allow you to think a little bit bigger picture without it being so intimidating, like the whole goal for the year. So I do that all the time. But I found that I forget them. So I actually have to like constantly write them down, which really helps me. So this is a strategy if you're someone who feels like you've forgotten some of the goals. When I'm doing my morning journaling, before I make my to-do list for the day, I write my goals list. Because how can you make your to-do list if you don't even have your goals top of mind? You're just going to end up with a to-do list that is motivated by other people's goals, right? Other people are always wanting things from you, and it's for their goals, right? So you need to make your to-do list for your own goals. And you do that by reminding yourself of what your goals are. So when I do my morning journaling, I'll write down my goal for the year, my goal for the quarter, and my goal for the month. And I even set weekly goals each week. Now, my weekly goals may be more nitty-gritty, tangible, action-based goals, where some of the other goals may be more outcome-based goals. I did record an episode on action-based goals versus outcome-based goals earlier this year. I believe it was this year. Maybe it was last year. I'll link it in the show notes because that's a good episode for you if you're wanting more content around like, well, what goals do I set? So you can go back and listen to that one after this episode. But regardless of whether they're action-based or outcome-based goals, depending on the context and what's best for you, if you remind yourself of them, then you can make a to-do list that aligns with them. And that's really important. So ask yourself, whether you've forgotten about your goals or you're someone who's like, my goals have been top of mind, great. Are the actions that you're taking on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, are they actually aligning with the goals you set? Are they setting you up for success? Are you doing the things that you need to do in order to move closer to your goals? Because it's one thing to set the goals. It's another thing to keep them top of mind. You may have done both of those things fantastic, and they may be top of mind, but your actions do not always align with your words. How many of you have ever had a friend, a spouse, a sibling, a parent who said they were going to do one thing, but actually did another? How many of you in your life have also been that person? Not just for other people, but for yourself. How many times have you said, I'm going to work out every day this week, and then you only did 2 workouts? And look, I know I'm calling you out, but I'm in this with you. That was certainly me last week. Now that this goal is top of mind, that I do want to work out, my goal is work out most days, Monday to Friday. Most means, now this is important. Are your goals vague? I am happy with 3 times, but 4 is better and 5 is best. 3 is my minimum. Let's say I'm traveling a lot and I'm on and off planes and I'm just, but then it's like, what's your definition of working out? The goals get so complicated, right? Because is a walk with Michael workout? For my context, for my personal goal, I would like to move my body in addition to walking 3 times because I walk a lot because I have a baby. So that's wonderful. And I still want to do some other things too to build my muscles and maintain my strength and all of that. So that's a good example of, are your goals vague, and defining them is very important. But I'm calling myself out too. So I just want you to know, I know this conversation can be harsh sometimes, but it's human. And I think even the most motivated, goal-oriented people, life happens for. And I think that an important part of resilience and just thriving as a human being is being flexible, not being so rigid. I am pretty rigid in nature. Like, I have a really hard time if I say I'm going to do something to not do it. But there are situations where it just doesn't make sense. So, for example, if I said I was going to reorganize a closet and I wake up with a fever and I'm sick in bed because my son was sick last week and now I got the same thing, I feel anxious that I cannot reorganize that closet because I said I was going to do it. But I genuinely know that that is not best for me, right? So that flexibility. Another example, I have started meal prepping because I work mostly on my son's naps. And if I have to cook dinner for us on one of those naps, then I just really limit the time I actually have to spend working. And so I just did not feel it was the best routine for me to cook every night, which I used to do before I had a child. And I love cooking and it's something I really enjoy, but there's only so many hours in a day. And so it's deciding, what do I want to focus my time on? So I started meal prepping. And so on Sundays, I'll make lunches for us. I'll make some multiple meals. I'll make snacks. So this is really over the top, but I make homemade yogurt. And when I say homemade yogurt, it's not actually homemade yogurt. It's just, I buy plain Greek yogurt. I put it in my food processor with raspberries, peanut butter, occasionally a little bit of honey. I go by taste. So it depends, like the ratio of yogurt to raspberries to peanut butter, which it's all eyeball for me. That's how I cook. I don't bake like that. I bake with the most exact, because you have to. You have to bake like that. You don't have to cook like that. So I have different parts of me. Anyways, I'll prep things like that. Yogurts, I'll put them in little pouches for Michael's lunches or snacks or whatever. So I get all of that together. And I like to get all of that together on Sundays. But probably 50% of the time on Sundays, we have plans. Like we have a birthday party. We're coming back from a trip. We have this or that going. I mean, we always have things. So yesterday I came back from my friend's bachelorette party and I had a birthday party. And then we had to get together with our neighbors. So I had zero time to prep anything. And I didn't prep anything. And I feel great about it. But I was not always like this. I used to be very rigid. And letting go of the rigidity has really helped me just thrive. And it's not an excuse. So I am going to prep for our family. I'm not going to let us have no food in our fridge all week, be rushing around, cooking dinners last minute. I'm just going to have to shift the time that I do it in, right? So now it's going to look a little different. It might look like some of it happens today on a nap. Some of it might happen tomorrow morning before he gets up, right? And so all of these different things you have to shift. You have to be willing to shift. And I think that that is a big part of reaching your goals, is being willing to shift the process and not being so stuck on it. But it's being able to find your balance between that and accountability, because I believe that a lot of people are just simply not accountable. And if you want to know the difference, one of the things that I use, a strategy I've used, and I have recorded an episode on this a couple of years back. It's called pain now or pain later. So essentially I'll ask myself, do I want to experience pain now or pain later based on this decision? So one of the ways that I use it is actually to help myself get up in the morning. I don't use an alarm. I wake up when my body wakes me up, and then I try to get out of bed relatively quickly. I might give myself a couple of minutes to like enjoy and kind of just like rest and feel good. And then I felt that that cup is filled and it's time to get up. I will say pain now or pain later. And I will actually give a real example. So right now I'm preparing for a speech that I have next month. And so I'll say, pain now or pain later. Pain now is get up. Pain later is feel unprepared when I walk on the stage. And immediately I stand up. I mean, that is one of the worst feelings in the world. I never want to feel that way. And so I'm out of bed. That's accountability. And that's different from rigidity. And I think that finding that difference for you is a key to sticking with your goals in the long term. So as we talk about sticking with your goals for the year and checking in on those 2025 goals, I want you to just assess, where do you think you are on this like scale from accountability to rigidity? We want to be as close to accountability as we can and as far from rigidity in an unhelpful way. And everyone is different, and some people might thrive on more rigidity, but I know personally it brings out the worst in me, and I do not thrive that way. But I've learned that about myself through experience. So it's not about what works for me and who I am. It's about what works for you and who you are. So I really want you to just self-reflect a bit. Are you accountable? Be honest. And going back to that question I asked you, when was the last time that you said you were going to do one thing, but your actions did another, right? So checking in on what are your actions that you're taking on a daily basis. And finally, I want to close on intentionality for going forward. So we've done a lot of reflecting on what your goals are, how you've held those goals throughout the year, what actions you've taken on them, the approach you've had towards them. But now I want to talk about what happens next, because there's a reason I recorded this episode in this exact time and space, because I really want it to serve as an opportunity for you to be intentional going forward. So there's a couple months of the year left. Now's a really great time to think about, what do I want the rest of the year to look like? And this is so personal. Some people want to take the month of December to just slow down, to recharge, and they plan for that. And when you plan for that, you can do that, right? So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with slowing down. Now, for me, it's really not seasonal, except for the fact that in December, we have way more plans and we have way more going on and way more parties. And so there's just physically less time to work. But most of my decisions around how I'm going to spend my time revolve more around what's going on in my work and what's going on in my heart. Am I sparked by something? Am I working on a project that I'm all in on, that I'm, staying up late working on and so excited about? Or am I kind of in a waiting season where I'm just staying consistent with my action and I'm feeling good about what I'm doing and I'm enjoying my time when I'm not taking that action, right? So there's different seasons. So there's not one right season, but you can decide what season you're in and what you want the next 3 months to look like. So my ask for you is just be intentional, make an intentional decision about how you want to spend the next 3 months of the year, and then keep that intentional decision top of mind. I think that everyone should take 5 minutes in the morning to journal, just to brain dump what's going on, what are our plans for the day, and reconnect that back to your goals and your vision. I think that's very important. So I would encourage you, if you're not doing that, you don't need any kind of special, you can literally just in a notebook, like, this is a brain dump. These are my goals. This is what I'm working on today, just to have that top of mind. So I hope this episode was helpful as a check-in. I know we all need check-ins, and it's something that we probably don't do frequently enough. So I'm glad you took time for yourself to check in. You should feel proud of yourself and grateful that you made that space for yourself. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will catch you in the next episode.